Hi, I'm ED-SKaR.
And I'm Poir.
And this is a video for OtherGamesApril. However, by the time I finish editing this video, it's probably not going to be April anymore because
it still counts.
Because I'm a world famous YouTuber, naturally, they all forgot to mention it to me until the start of April, when the public kind of videos went up. And so I have had no time at all to plan this. Thankfully, my good friend Ratman has popped down to give me a hand. That's definitely why you came down, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, we weren't planning this trip well before we found out about it. But today's video is about
Zona Alfa.
So this is a little miniatures agnostic game from Osprey Games. And Osprey Games is not necessarily the smallest company in the world. They're more of a publishing company than a kind of a war games company.
Yeah.
But they do a few rule books. We call them the blue books because they're the blue spine on the shelf. And you get all sorts of different games. And this particular one is set in the kind of the zone, the kind of the exclusion zone of the Stalker, the Stragatsky mythos, however that's pronounced. The authors of Roadside Picnic. It's also very similar to the Annihilation film that's been fairly popular a few years back.
I can't believe I've seen it.
Have you not seen? We are going to cut the video there and go and watch Annihilation.
Right, well that was good. Anyway.
The short version of the general feel of all of these situations is there is an area, sometimes it's around a city, sometimes it's countryside, sometimes it's like 30 or 40 kilometers, it's a massive area that has suddenly become extremely dangerous. Yeah, depending on if it's like a high fantasy setting, there would be magic. In a more of a science fiction setting, it'd be some kind of aliens perhaps have messed around with stuff. But it's extremely dangerous. The governments of the local area usually seal it off and try and prevent people going in, but there are a small group known as Stalkers who sneak into the zone, learn its secrets, learn the ways around, learns the routes, often fighting each other, often fighting the military because they're kind of keeping the cordon around the outside of the zone. That's a common theme. But also they manage to find valuable artifacts, and these may be alien artifacts or magical artifacts that they don't really understand, but they want to bring them out of the zone to sell them on the black market.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously long-time viewers of the channel will remember, hopefully remember, us playing, what was the Zona board game we played?
It was Zona, yes. In fact,
Zona.
It's still on the shelf. It's on that shelf. It's actually still in shot. It's right there.
Lovely. So that obviously is the same sort of setting. Ukraine, sort of around Pripyat. So obviously after the Chernobyl incident, as it is known. And then it is aliens, isn't it?
It depends on which version. So in the original Roadside Picnic novel, it was aliens flew past. They stopped and had a kind of a roadside picnic, and they left their junk.
From playing I've only played the Stalker games a bit. I get the impression it's more geared towards these things are a result of the nuclear fallout from Chernobyl.
Yes, in the Stalker games, they were more heavy on kind of the radiation fears of the Chernobyl incident. If you get to the end of the game, you find spoiler warnings in the voiceover here.
A bunch of Soviet scientists were trying to pacify the entire human race by manipulating the noosphere to remove violent thoughts from everyone. Yeah, it's pretty science fiction.
But obviously Paul can't hear that because he hasn't finished the game yet.
Too many unpainted models all over my keyboard for me to actively play a computer game correctly.
Yeah, you should probably play the computer game.
Okay, so we're going to try out this game today and give some sort of initial feedback. Obviously, initial gameplay isn't going to be fully all-encompassing, but we'll have a bit of a play.
I haven't even read the rulebook yet. We only got it yesterday.
Looked at the pictures and tried to work out where they got the models from. That was.
There are some nice models in the pictures in the book. There's also some very nice artwork, especially the front cover, which has this physics-defying anomaly where someone's up on a gantry in a factory at the background and he's shooting, and the bullets are kind of curving around this anomaly, and these two guys in the front are taking cover. It's a really... This aesthetic, the kind of the grungy darkness with these bright, beautiful colours, that's what I like. That's what I like. Right, so I'm going to go and read the rulebook so we know how to play the game. And then we're going to play the game. Yeah.
I noticed a few things whilst reading through the rulebook. One bad, many good. The bad thing that I'll mention first is that there isn't kind of the refinement that I'm used to with other skirmish games or war game rulebooks. There is no index page, and there's no cheat sheet at the end with all of the tables in one place. Now, the intention is for players to write down their character's information with all the rules for them on a little stat card, because that's all the information you need. But there's a few tables here and there for the mutants that will appear and the effects on the table, and those are things that you're going to have to look through the book for. The good points, however, far outweigh that. It's written in a very lovely and relaxed sort of way, with explanations and examples along the way to show you how various aspects of the game work. It is a long way from some games that are so technical and strict that you have to be a rules lawyer or a munchkin or an accountant to learn them. There's even these fun little in-universe paragraphs that are interspersed that you don't necessarily notice aren't rules until you read them, and it keeps the setting and the feel of the game in your mind whilst giving you a nice little rest from reading the rules. And so I picked out some models that are suitably post-apocalyptic. As this is miniature agnostic, I have Bad Squiddo, Corvus Belli, Wreck Age, Sisters of Tellurium, and some 3D printed models from Thingiverse. We laid out a lot of terrain to make for a messy, broken ghost town, and we decided that our objective was to rescue these scientists who were studying the area and had gotten themselves into trouble. To start each turn, both players roll a d10, and the higher chooses to go first or second. This die roll is modified by pin counters that we forgot to use at any point during the game. I've only read the rulebook once, forgive me. As each model has their go, control is passed back and forth between players who move one model at a time. This alternate activation is great and keeps both players involved and invested in the action all of the way through, making games like this a lot of fun. Our standard Stalkers got 2 actions, each our leaders 3, and can choose any combination of move, attack, study an area, use an item or ability, and other things as well. For the first few turns we mostly shuffled around trying to find advantageous positions. Our leaders got to the building at the bottom, which we called a hotspot, and hotspots can trigger some mutants, and in this case a pack of dogs came pouring out of the doors and windows. But as I don't have enough dog models, I grabbed out my gnolls, who are hyena people, so it's not quite right, but close enough for us. Between the Stalkers from both sides, we made quick work of the first dogs with our AK rifles. To shoot in this game, you measure the range, 36 inches for the assault rifles, so we're all plenty close enough. We roll the number of d10s, that's 10-sided dice, equal to the weapon's firepower. In the case of fully automatic assault rifles, they get 3 dice each. Any of those dice that are equal to your character's combat skill or lower will hit, and yes, that means this is one of those odd games where rolling low is good. Once hits are made, the targeted model rolls their armour. The dogs only have 3, and the assault rifles modify that by another 1, and so on a d10, a roll of 1 or 2 will save them, otherwise they are removed. Paul decided his leader's big close combat weapon would work nicely to finish off the rest, and that was true. Close combat works very similar to shooting, and our leader's heavy armour protected them nicely. I, however, decided to skulk off into the building to search for scrap or loot or anything of value, and came away with some nondescript items that are worth, well, not very much. The other side of the board was more interesting. We both sent Stalkers to help the scientists, but the rusted out tank they were hiding behind was also designated as a hotspot, so when we got close, some more mutants appeared. Ghouls this time, and so I grabbed my old zombie models. In the scuffle here, my Stalker went down to the ghouls, and so did one of the scientists. But Paul rescued the other one and got away and won him the game. But in the dying moments of the last turn, the last hotspot in the middle of the board had become an anomaly, a dangerous area of unknowable physics. I sent in a Stalker to have a look. With care, his wits about him, and the luck of the dice, he came back with a artifact of the zone, something that we could sell after the game.
So with the one important caveat, that caveat being we've barely played the game properly because I've only had a chance to really skim the rulebook and not really done it properly. What do you think?
Yeah, it was really enjoyable. It's quite fun. Obviously, since then we've read through some of the rules a bit more to a bit more clarity.
Yeah. We did a few things wrong, several things in fact.
Yeah, but yeah, it's fun. It's pretty cool. Model agnostic. Obviously, it opens itself quite well to using like my Fallout miniatures that I've already got.
Yeah, I've got some various models that I'm making specifically for the Stalker computer games, which obviously is actually mentioned in the book that's part of the inspiration.
Yes, yeah.
But any kind of wasteland post-apocalyptic model will go nicely. But then it doesn't have to be that. You can easily say this is a kind of an excluded zone in a science fiction setting. There's some hive city or kind of space dock or something where there's a level that's kind of gaseous and it's been kind of the dumping ground for chemicals or radiation or whatever, and the same things happen.
I think the one thing that you need to take away from this is the NPCs. You need something to represent those.
Yes, having a decent collection. I think you don't have to be quite as strict, but having a decent representation for a few different things.
We were using those as like were they wolves or dogs?
Wolves or dogs.
Yeah.
I have a few animals, but not many, and it calls for what we rolled was actually using six of them.
Yeah.
And I might be able to scrounge up 3 or 4 dogs, but to get 6 would be a struggle. So being a bit kind of loose on the descriptions. So if it says like a pack of animals, you can use any animal, or you can use something that's kind of animal-like.
Yeah. I mean, you could get away with just making paper bases and using those.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I just think it'd be something that you'd need to be mindful of if you're picking this up. And you don't have... Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of models, but you need a variety of models. There's larger mutants, so maybe some larger animals like a bear. If you had a bear model or a toy, that could work too.
I wouldn't even call that a criticism. I'd say that was the only piece of feedback I'd give if you're looking to play this game today. Well, not today, but purchase this. You just need to be mindful that you need 6 dogs, 6 zombies, some mercs, which obviously are easier. Yeah.
If you've got 2 factions of any war game ever, you can just say this faction is our models, and then this other faction is the whatever mutants or that happen to turn up, whether it's a giant bear or a lot of rats.
Yes.
When it comes to criticisms, the only real criticism that I've had so far is that the way that the rules are written, you do end up bouncing back and forth
a lot of going forwards and backwards.
I think the worst example is pinning. So the rules for pinning aren't there's no header that says pinning. It's like the second half of a paragraph about something else for pinning. But then when we were looking at the mutants, we had to bounce between 2 or 3 pages because this is the combat ability, but then on this other page is the weapon. And I would really like in the back of the book for there to just be a cheat sheet with all the tables. Because once you know the rules, then all you need to reference is the tables, and it's just that one thing. And it's one of those things that every rulebook I've ever had for any war game ever has cheat sheet in the back that's got all the tables, and this one doesn't.
But there's not even an index, is there?
There's no index, and it's one of those things that I've come to rely on, and I haven't noticed how much I rely on that because it's such a useful thing, and this is the first, kind of the one game that doesn't have it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be easy enough to just take some photos of the tables.
When it comes to positives, it's a nice, quick, simple rule set that plays fairly quickly. Once you get into it, once you've played a few games, this will go really quick. And something that we haven't even touched on is the campaign rules.
Yes, well, Yeah, we were discussing playing.
I definitely want to play a long campaign where, rather than just playing one game like we have today, we play 3 games to start with, and then you extend it and you go off until, you could potentially go on forever, because as you earn money in the game, you buy more models, and they get killed and wiped out, and you lose equipment, and you go back and forth, and you can extend it on. At some point, you either run away and become super powerful, and you retire a character and then start up again. Or you go the other way and you squander everything into nothing and end up having to reset. But that would be fun. I'm kind of sad that this is the only anomaly in the whole book. All of the artwork, I mean, it's cool artwork, it's really nice, but a lot of it's just some people standing around looking cool, and I want more anomalies.
I quite like the lady with the white hair, because she kind of reminds me of Ciri from the Witcher series.
I also like this one because she's wearing an exosuit, and I love exosuit. I think there's modelling projects there.
Oh yeah.
Anomalies, artifacts.
I mean, for today's game, obviously we used this, which was quite cool, because when we were playing earlier on, where the sun was in the sky, it was casting like a purpley blue shadow at one point. That was quite cool.
I wonder if that'll come out on camera. Probably not. I don't actually know. It's a glass ball. It's got loads of bubbles in it, and it's kind of been painted with a glittery effect. But that's now an anomaly for us.
Anomaly. But yeah, I mean, we've got a couple of ideas for other anomalies. Obviously, it's difficult to conceptualise things that are...
Yeah, a lot of them, particularly in the computer games, a lot of them are swirling energies and swirling wind, which is not a physical, tangible thing that you can make out of plastic or metal. And so it comes to alluding to stuff. So one of the ones that I want to make is a swirling wind, kind of a swirling wind, but then have it filled with leaves, because then at least you can paint the leaves.
Yes.
And just have this swirling effect of leaves. But yeah, I am a massive fan of the setting. The Stalker film, Annihilation, the Stalker computer games, and Zona Alpha, and the Zona board game that I've been doing videos on for a while.
That's actually the stuff.
Oh, it's actually up there. I pointed up there. What's up there?
Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars and
Whatever
Death
was
Mirror.
there,
So, overall, I think this is a pretty good option. It's a small miniatures agnostic game. The book itself retails for $12.99.
I haven't got it for like $12.99.
And on the back of the book it's saying 20 US and 27 Canadian. It hopefully should be available in various places around the world in whatever currency that you have to be using in your country, or for import, but certainly for £13 that's not expensive. And given that you're using models that you already have, you can probably use terrain that you already have if you're a wargamer. This is something to add to the collection. Yeah. If you're not a wargamer and you don't have these things, card templates, like we said,
boxes, cardboard boxes, books,
a couple of tissue boxes and stuff. You can lay out a piece of paper and draw a road on. This is how we started. I played on kitchen tables with tissue boxes and shoe boxes as the factories that we fought over. That stuff like this takes years to assemble, and that's totally okay. But for getting started,
it takes years to assemble if we're done.
It's the cost of a board game, really.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot more potential for this than there is in a board game.
Oh, definitely a lot more replay. Because obviously,
not to say that I don't like board games.
There's lots of, like we were reading in the book, obviously like traps and you have an engineering skill to disarm traps and stuff like that. It gives it lots of potential for story driven rather than a 1v1 skirmish game. It's more, you've got to infiltrate this building, sort of, scenario story driven.
I think if you're an RPG player, give your DM this, and they could turn this into a campaign fairly easily. For anyone who's played RPGs, if you consider this book to be the combat side of your game, and then all of the other side is just storytelling and you like talking with each other. So this could turn into an RPG very easily. I would love an official expansion to Zona Alpha where it was an RPG expansion. But this rule set works really nicely for that. It actually has a lot of elements that are very similar. I'm familiar with when it comes to RPGs in terms of like you moving one character at a time, like there are different actions that you can do different things with. Like you're not strictly set to move and attack every turn. Stuff like that. It's the kind of thing that works well in an RPG. So I think there's some crossover potential there as well.
Yeah.
Well then, with our final conclusion being relatively positive.
Yes, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, I can say that I'm ED-SKaR.
And I'm ED-SKaR.
And thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.